Real
Is he
scorpions
naked
don't
or?
break.
I mean,
What?
I could find one.
It's
If,
just
if he's
weird.
not naked, why do I
He's
care?
doing it with his crotch. Get over here, and it's
Not,
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
hilarious.
beyond me.
crotch.
It's pretty standard. I would say.
Probably it's some Rule 34 shit.
All right,
It's definitely
boys and
normal.
girls,
It's not
let's get this
normal.
started. Let's get this
Okay.
started. Let's get this fucking started. Oh my god.
Here we go.
Let's
All
do
right,
it.
so
I'm so
this is going to
tired right
be,
now.
everyone shut up. This is going to be another game podcast. So just like last time I made the boys play Doki Doki Literature Club, much to my own chagrin. And I enjoyed it. Everyone enjoyed it. Some people can't stop even talking about it. Like, it still comes up in conversation when we just hang out.
I'm a weeb now.
I know. And we also did a Sea of Thieves episode that was hosted by Steve, affectionately called Sea of Steves. That was fun.
Exactly.
Now, if you can't tell by the music, which you probably can't, has no bearing. I made the boys play the Beginner's Guide, which I truly believe should be a staple in anyone's library when we're talking about indie games and games that kind of push the envelope in terms of what a game is and lean mostly into like gaming is actually an art form. It's great. So now we're going to hear about how these guys fared and if they liked it or not.
Can we start with Steve? Because I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
If
So,
he played it.
So I'm just going to ask you guys. I'll start with Steve. What do you think about like when I asked? What did you think about when I asked you to play this game? Like, what was your reaction?
So I was offended. I was like, who does he think I am? I'm not a beginner. I'm at least an expert.
Uh-huh.
Intermediate at best.
So the beginner's guide, very, very trivial game, very for children.
It's easy.
No, I know.
You gotta walk forward.
Yeah, so no, I went into it with after playing Doki, I went into it with some expectations of knowing that I'm pretty sure that what I'm getting into is probably more than what meets the eye. But it honestly wasn't what I was expecting initially. I thought it was going to be more. I really liked the narrative as it revolved around game design, because that's something that I'm personally interested in. And like as a programmer myself, I was able to relate to a lot of the little nuancy things of the game and like the pieces that they did and the little parts of the game and like actually the source assets that they used. Was able to relate to a lot of those aspects. But I guess sort of without getting too deep into it, I sort of went into it with the expectation of not knowing what to expect. But overall, I mean, I enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it there for now.
All right, great. How about you, Nick? Same question.
Basically the same sort of thought. Kind of held that expectation that something was gonna fuck me up at some point. In all honesty, just coming from Vela, you just know it's not gonna be just a straight thing. It's just gonna be.
A very
It's gonna
gay
take
thing.
off somewhere. No, nothing. But honestly, I didn't really enjoy it as much, if at all. Sadly.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, it was exactly what I expected Doki Doki to be for me. Where it's one of those games where it just felt like it kept going and I wasn't connecting at all.
Really? That's
in some
interesting.
way.
I can see that.
And you played
That's
it
why
through.
I played it all the way through. That's when I asked you guys, like, is there a second playthrough I gotta do to find a different perspective of things and all that? I felt like I was doing something wrong. I just wasn't sure exactly.
All right, we'll get back to that. Greg, you might have had something different, like to
Well,
say, hopefully.
It's my second playthrough because I had played it before just on my own because of Stanley Parable. It's the same guy who made that. And I
Danny
knew it was
Reedon.
gonna be.
David
I knew,
Reedon.
I knew it was gonna be some goofy shenanigans where you push the boundaries of basic. You walk down a path, you see how it goes, and stuff happens, and you have to react to it. But it definitely invoked more emotion in Stanley Parable. It definitely made you think more thought-provoking.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you realize that games can be an art form, which is, I think, revolutionary. I think it's brilliant in that regard. I will agree that it is a little empty near the end because it does kind of leave you and feeling kind of whatever. That's why I can't wait to hear Nick's perspective, but it is definitely an art piece. It's definitely modern arts in game form, which I love and hate at the same time. It's got pros and cons.
So, I want to ask, like, what was the most, and I'm actually kind of apprehensive about asking this after getting Steve and Nick's reactions. Was there anything striking, any point in the game that you found striking? Let's start with Steve.
Any point in the game that I found striking? Oh, geez, I'm
like different, something out of the box, and that you're like, whoa. Because let me help you guys.
I can interject.
Yeah, you go first.
I will go off.
I really like.
Wait. Before you go off, let me also like supplement by saying, there are games that you play, and we've spoken about this before as well, where you're playing a character, but at some point, whether you relate to this person or not, the game kind of looks right at you and like kind of perceives you as the character instead. Like it's like looking into a mirror at that point. And I feel like this game did that to me in a way. That's all I wanted to say. So like, Greg, shoot off.
Okay, I'll go into it. So this game does a great job of doing. Okay, I think it's called the Beginner's Guide. It is the Beginner's Guide. This is my theorem. I'm gonna just go on my whole thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is the theorem that is the Beginner's Guide to games as an art form. This game does a great job of like leading into like this is a medium that can be taken and interpreted as art. So it starts you off with this is a CS:GO level. You start playing, and it drops you into the CS:GO level, which is very. If you've played CS:GO, it's a very popular game.
If you played any Source game,
yeah, any game where you're a first-person shooter, you're like, oh, I'm in a level where you fight other people, and there's blocks, there's bricks, there's walls, there's crates, there's stuff to hide behind, there's basic, environment. Meanwhile, there's narration going and telling you, they're reinforcing the same thing. They're telling you like, oh, you're in a level now. My friend coded, he named Coda, and he made this environment, and it's very much a normal game. It starts you in this very normal reality where you understand it, normalizes it, and then it brings you into the next level, which is then based in like sci-fi. It's a very Halo. It's very, again, very recognizable, very understandable. It's very like hallways, spaceship, could be aliens. You have a gun, first-person shooter, understandable like Source engine stuff. But then it slowly brings you into this like art kind of like. What if you think about why you're there? What if you think about if you sacrifice your life? What do you think about like your actions? What do you think about like the environment? What do you think about these different small things that the game developer thinks about, not so much the player? It really focuses on the game developer, and that's the whole thing. The whole time you're playing it, there's a narrator reiterating that, oh, indeed, someone made this game. That person that made it for a purpose, and that purpose was for the player to experience this thing that can be now interpreted as whatever, and that's the whole part.
I just want to add something really quick.
Go ahead.
So the narrator is a guy named David Reedon, who Greg also mentioned made the Stanley Parable. He's literally walking. It doesn't come off as a game in the beginning. He's literally telling we are aware that he's created the Stanley Parable before. Now he's just showing you. He's actually telling you a story through Coda's games, his friend and stuff. So
there's no fourth wall.
I would argue that this is not a game. In fact, it's more of an experience.
Yes.
And I think we kind of touched on this before when we had other talks. Whereas like this game is not really a game because you don't really have much decisions to make.
Yeah.
It's more about walking from A to B and having the plot told to you and the experience told to you. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just,
Yeah, so I think what Greg said really helped me kind of sort of put my thoughts together.
Good.
So I guess my interpretation of like the beginner's guide is the beginner's guide to level design or game design to express emotion or to invoke self-reflection. And I think that he definitely sort of explored that aspect through different parts of the game. And I think the thing that really sort of either, I don't say turned me off to the game, but sort of I wish I had more of was diversity in the type of emotion being expressed.
Context, yeah.
Yeah, because it seemed like it was the same emotion with increasing intensity being invoked throughout the entire game, or the same concept being explored throughout these different projects.
Yeah,
where you're basically the sense of being trapped and the sense of sort of wanting to distance yourself from others, or that's
Loneliness.
this loneliness, and kind of the through the game, it's expressing the downward spiral of losing an outlet for the Coda, the developer in the game.
Yeah, because it's very much it starts as, like I said, CSGO, normal game level. People would design this if they were normal, like, fans of the game. They would try to make their own spin on it. And then it goes into Halo. It's like, oh, I'm going to try to make my own game. And then it becomes like, I will develop a prison level game. You go into this thing and you're put into a prison. And then it very heavily hits you over the head of like, prison. And then Nario is saying the same stuff. He's like, yeah, this is a game where you were experiencing this very similar prison-like experience over and over again.
Yeah. I think there were... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to... I actually wanted to move into the next kind of segment. Nick, I believe you may not have much to speak to, or is this, right? Since you've already, made up your mind.
I mean, I'm listening and I'm kind of rethinking as I'm hearing it. And it's like, yes, I understand a little bit of this, but I'm not getting... Like, the whole art thing, I don't get...
That's fine, but we'll get to that. So, I believe the crux, or, the big question, the most important defining question is we need to kind of explore who Coda is to us.
Right?
So we need to psychologically kind of explain why he's making these games. Because it's known to us right now that Coda makes games with no actual objective. He makes games as, it's kind of like leaving unfinished painting behind, He makes games, but once he's done with it, we know that he's done with it. He moves on to something else. He could work on a game for months and months and months, and you could look at it, it just looks like something that's half done and stuff, but to him it's complete. So the onus of explaining what the game is on us, really, because we have no say over what Coda says, or... it's not like a traditional video game where you can complain to a dev and shit like that. He's making games for himself, not for anyone else.
Can I ask the group, did anyone think that Coda was a real person?
I wanted to believe it so much.
I did too.
I wanted to believe it so much.
So it's like one of the ones. Yeah.
When I heard his name was Coda, I was like, this isn't a real person.
Right. I mean, you could hear Vela, and that's not a real person either. There is a person behind it.
I had to look it up. I had to go to Wikipedia, and I had to get the if someone made this game, they would have to incorporate the other person's perspective. You can't just completely negate. You have to allow them to speak, kind of thing.
And also get permission for putting his material online.
Right. Well, it was also being a programmer and knowing how some of those levels are made and stuff like that. I could basically be like, okay, it doesn't take 5 months to make something.
So that's a unique,
exactly.
But I will say this though, being someone who's not a coder, it could take them that long. If they don't know, if they're learning from scratch and stuff, I've met a lot of indie game devs who aren't very good at coding, who just basically watch the YouTube video and that's how they do it. It would take them a lot longer, right? And if Coda had something in mind that this is exactly how I want it to be, no matter how simplistic it might look to an aficionado or someone an expert, it could very well take them that long, just to get the right feeling, the textures and stuff. They may not know where to get these assets from, whereas for me, with my limited knowledge, I just know all right, Source already has these free assets. The first level was Dust 2 1.6. It actually everything from the double doors to everything. The only thing missing was the physics somehow. That was what tipped me off that this is not an actual thing. Coda to make these levels.
Because if they were using half your perspective, it's insane.
Exactly. If he was going to posit that this was made out of Source, the physics were just not there, just non-existent.
Yeah. So I guess going back to your question of what Coda was to us, I guess I really kind of related to the whole idea of how those games were made, completely unfinished, just sort of like snapshots of of an idea, essentially. And that's kind of what Coda is to me, is sort of the idea of latching on to something, whether that something is an idea or an emotion that needs to be expressed, or something that doesn't necessarily need resolution, but maybe needs some kind of illustration
or an outlet.
an outlet or better understanding. And the way that kind of ties into me is, I do a lot of like little music creation stuff, and I maybe have like 100 of things that I call songs or whatever that he might call games that are maybe like just like 2 bars long, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's not a song, it's not an intro, it doesn't have an outro, it's just like, it's a melody. That's it. It's an idea.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, because I go back and I listen to a bunch of them all the time, and a lot of them sound like the same, like very similar, like 1 or 2 things are different. And I think that really ties back to kind of the idea of like the prison levels, how you're sort of exploring that idea from different angles, and maybe it comes back later or something like that. And that whole idea of having that outlet and being able to sort of express that snapshot in time.
This is why I go back to the beginner's guide is the beginner's guide to game development as an art form.
Yeah.
I think it is very much so much like this is what it stands for. It has the bare essentials there. It's like, this is a game, but you just walk forward and you talk and you interact. It's the most like bare minimum game ever, but it's basically an experience that you have that you can only have in a game form, but it makes you like live the medium to its fullest. Like the medium could be experiencing the whole clean house. Okay, the part of the game where you
my
clean a
favorite
house.
level.
Yeah,
by far.
because you actually do things.
Yeah.
You clean a house, and you clean up the house, and you try to like appease this NPC as much as possible. You try to like, they're like, oh, can you do this? I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely, I can do that for you. And it takes like 2 seconds. You do it, and they give you a little more like life experience as you do. Like, oh, the game is rewarding me for doing the base necessity stuff. And so I think most people want. Most people want to have an experience where they can do the bare minimum and get rewarded the maximum amount. They can do this bare minimum task of cleaning the house, and then therefore get like this great experience of
some
like
kind
light.
of validation.
Yeah, that makes them feel great inside, and that's the whole point of entertainment. And that's why this game is so great, because it reflects entertainment itself. It more than movies or art can do. It makes you personally interact with it and personally experience this thing that lets you experience such a drastic change of pace based on just like you walk from one area, you go to another area, completely changes what you do.
What I think the beginner's guide does really well is setting the mood. So in the very first level, no, the second level rather, the space one, it just feels, it does everything it can to make you feel as uncomfortable as possible. Because yes, it looks like a regular space level and stuff, and you have an objective. But then you're looking around, there's no enemies. The tone of voice that Davey uses when he's narrating goes very, very grim. And the ending of that as well, like when you go in there and like when they cut the music and they literally ask you, like, you have to give yourself up to save everybody. There's nobody around. Literally
I thought it was so goofy because there's like a female voice interpreter, which I thought was fascinating because like there's no way an early dev would like contact some random female voice actor to like, you have to pay them to like say these lines.
Yeah.
It was so out of place. I was like, this is not what a unfinished game would do. They would not hire some random female to say these lines. Right. I was like, so that's a great.
The point is though, is that at that point you're meant to already be like fully immersed and believing everything Davey has to say.
All right, the real question though.
No, wait, I'm not done.
Sorry, go ahead.
I love how they explain what happens next as a bug.
Yeah.
And I loved that moment of the music dying down, and you can see this, the entire maze he's created and everything. Also, interesting note, you aren't actually moving up. The texture, the skybox is actually just moving down.
Right.
There's an easy way to check this. Like if you just look in a certain spot and stuff, the textures just stay where they are. The level's just moving down. Like it's great. But
right, so
go ahead. I'll let you finish and then
did you guys go back and solve the maze?
No.
Oh,
fuck no.
I mean, I saw the maze. I was like, okay.
I went back and solved it. Yeah,
you can solve the game.
He was like, he was basically like, we'll let you skip it, and if you go back and solve, he's like, oh, you can solve it too if you want.
You could. It's a maze, yeah. It's solvable.
You get extra voice lines, yeah. It's a solvable maze.
I didn't know that. That's actually great. But continuing on mood, and the level that
is
Greg's
yawning.
I'm sorry. Usually I'm down and asleep right now.
This is why it's fascinating, because okay, if you ever talk about modern art, like if you ever go to a museum, at least in the Richmond, Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, it's a free admission. You go there, it's free, so you can have any matter of people going there. You have people that go there for like, because it's cool, they have AC. You have people that go there for like, they actually want to experience the art. And you have people that want to go there to like enrich their lives. That's the whole point of art, is to have that big wide range, exactly, of people either getting it, and they find some deeper meaning,
or staying cool.
People going there, they go there, and they're like, okay, this is well made or whatever.
Yeah, and you get the group of like, oh, my 6-year-old can do that, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I wouldn't go as far to call this art, and that's like
I would for sure.
I 100% would.
I don't know, because like I understand the idea of like, you know, using the game to inflict emotion or to get some kind of reaction, but
that is art.
Yeah.
What is art to you?
I guess I don't know. Maybe to me, I think that this game didn't go far enough for me to call it like it's as a purpose of the game as invoking game design as an art. Like you know, I'll say that obviously those aspects do make it an art to a sense, but I don't think that it took it far enough to call the game itself the reason why I'm saying it's an art. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I hear what you're saying.
I feel like it's 100% a piece of art. Whether it's diminutive or not is another conversation altogether. Like,
okay.
It could be bad art, you know? Like the thing is, art is subjective.
They're trying to be art, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It could be diminutive. Like Duchamp's like he literally just put a toilet in a museum. I don't know if you guys heard of Marcel Duchamp.
Yeah.
Famous kind of story. Art critics were pissed at it. Some guy actually tried to break in and smash it with a hammer, which is now it's gained infamy. And like that is art. Also, like there's several movements, like Dadaist movements of art that kind of challenge everything that is art and stuff, encompassing it's all art at the end of the day.
It's hard when it's a medium that can be so easily influenced by the smallest details, and they can clearly change everything extreme amounts.
Yeah.
That's why I would consider this art, because it's almost like a movie. There's no experience. You don't really, again, I would bring this up when we were talking about before, like, yeah, you go forward and there's like, the narrator's talking, like, okay, you're going to want to go here because the coda dictated that you should go here. And it's like,
but we're going to break this.
I want to go, I want to do my own way. I want to do my thing in the game. But then the game, then it responds to you because you try to go like off to the right where like there's nothing going on. It's like, oh wait, there's nothing there. I don't know why you would go over there. There's nothing. Don't worry about it. There's nothing hidden over there. So the game addresses that you were trying to explore the game as a game, and defeats you.
And that is
it's very much admitting that it is indeed a different medium. You know.
Yeah. But that's also in David Whedon's wheelhouse, because he did that in Stanley Parable as well.
Exactly.
Tells you not to go a place, but actually going another way in that game would reward you with something new. So it's different.
Right.
Yeah. But I just want to finish up my thing on mood. In contrast to that space level, we find ourselves in my favorite level, the one that Greg just mentioned, the cleaning part, where everything is so calm and serene. I would have been content to keep cleaning that house for like an hour. Like, I loved it. And little quips that the NPC would give you and stuff. It just felt so calming and smooth.
There are games that evolved around that similar concept.
Yeah. I think ultimately it's what we're looking for in a game. Which kind of...
I feel like that level put me on edge.
Viscera Clean and Detail is literally that game.
I was waiting for fucking horror music to start.
Oh, for sure. Multiple times you were waiting for a horror movie to start. Music to start.
Yeah. I think the most impactful level to me was probably when you were walking through like the pens and all of a sudden things started closing behind you. And like you literally feel like you're being like pushed into a cage.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the most impactful piece to me. Like, yeah, it was like the very start of that whole aspect where like you're walking through a hallway where there's just a bunch of like pens and gates, and like you take your first step and this loud thing and it closes behind you. You take a few more steps and then you take the step to the left and it closes and you start going up, and it's like you just feel completely helpless at that point.
Right.
I think that's like the whole idea of like the control is taken away essentially.
Yeah. Which I think is what the game is trying to do. or what Coda,
Yeah.
let's say, was trying to do and stuff. Also, just to clear up any confusion about Coda, David Reed in a podcast did finally just said no, he doesn't exist.
I
Verbatim.
figured.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did research. Again, my first playthrough 2 years ago, I think when I first bought this game because it was infamous. I definitely played through it. I played it. I was like, okay, I need to know if this is real or not.
I wanted to believe it's so
real.
bad.
Yeah,
Well,
it's so
bad.
integral to the plot, but it seems too good to be true. It's
I was
for
very
sure.
heart forward with it. I really just wanted Coda to be true, but then my mind was just no, you can't just take someone's shit and just throw it at people and make a profit out of it, right?
That's a great. But then I think about it, I was like, that was the great thing about art. Is art is taking fiction and making it seem real. That makes you learn something real about your life. That's the whole point of art. Is that you look at something fiction and it makes you figure something out about real life.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. It's not to actually simulate real life. It's to make you feel real life and then gain something from it.
One thing both art forms contemporary art and music can do is that they're literally only ways of capturing an emotion so vividly. Second would be writing, I guess, but that the onus of picking up that emotion is on the viewer or the listener, and it's the same thing with games as an art form. It's on you whether you want to immerse yourself in it or not. Case in point, that you go to an art museum or art gallery, and if you don't get it, don't stress yourself. It's not that you weren't meant to get it. It's just that maybe it's not for you.
It's what it does, though. It's I think it was Picasso that said a lie that tells the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So here's
Yeah.
here's a question, and I guess I'll direct this to Leet as a starting point. So do you remember the level with all the chat bubbles where they tell you these are from other people?
Let me guess. You clicked on every single chat bubble, didn't you?
I read through a lot of them, but I don't think I clicked on all of them.
Okay.
So I guess my question is more so after the guy tells you that oh, Coda wrote all of these yourselves, what was your sort of reaction as you were reading them or walking through the level?
Nothing really. In a weird sense, it was oh, okay, cool. It's just it is
lined up.
he designed the game. He made it a part of the game. That's all that I got from it.
Okay.
This is a part of his creation and what was in his mind. If this is what he wanted, cool. If not, I mean, why I was being told it was written by other people and all that, and then it flipped on it. At the time, I was like, just get me the fuck out of this. Please tell me I do not have to find the one that has to unlock a door.
The magic one, yeah.
I started reading through 70% of them until you got to that big painting with the dots and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I even walked up to that one in the front that says, "From here, it looks like it's just a bunch of dots." And I was like, "All right, well, I gotta find the door."
I gotta find
Yeah. I found the one that was I saw the penguin flying through the air. Nothing will ever be the same. I'm gonna go carve my eyes out and kill myself now. It's just the fucking.
Do you
But
also
it-
feel go ahead?
In a weird sense, there were some that stood out, a couple of them, where it was simulating kind of like what you experience in lobbies. We'll say a Call of Duty lobby or something, or a pregame lobby, where everybody's chit-chatting, saying whatever they want to say, and then you have these random voices that are just trying to get the attention. So they say, help, HALP, in all caps or something, or how do I get out of here? How do I unlock this door? How do I do this? Where's the dev? This game fucking sucks.
Yeah.
That type of thing. The negativity and the feedback.
I liken that level, the level that's supposedly connected to the internet, to Dark Souls, leaving messages behind, clues and stuff. Because I saw a few chat bubbles just said jump, and random stuff, oh, if you wait here for a very long time, you'll see a penguin flying through the air or something like that.
Yeah, and it definitely, I think the game by telling you up front that he wrote all of these himself, I think it was trying to convey some sense of insecurity of himself about his own games and sharing them. And
it's very self-aware.
It's very self-aware.
Yeah,
The
very
game
self-aware.
is, like I said, the game is made to make you feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me feel uncomfortable. When the first time I
Absolutely,
played it. It really did. But the thing is, when I play a game, or if I watch a movie, if I listen to a song and stuff, I immerse myself completely. My heart is on my sleeve and my forehead. I'm in it. Like I just suck in all of this stuff, you know. And it affected me, man. Like holy shit. Which is why I'm gonna ask you guys. Actually, I'm gonna pause it. That I feel like this game, like we know that Coda isn't real, but I feel
You don't
like,
know that.
I mean, yeah, I don't, like Davey did say that he wasn't real, but
Yeah,
but
sure.
but here's the thing, I feel like Coda is Davey,
Right.
because
Yeah.
Coda. Oh, sorry, I'll say Coda. Yeah, Davey Coda put out the Stanley Parable, which was a masterpiece. Like it was such a good like piece of gaming / art, whatever you want to call it. And he was probably like pressured again and again. It's kind of like the guy who made Flappy Bird, who just took the game off the air because he was just getting overwhelmed by people, you know, asking him a bunch of questions and stuff. And I can relate to that. I hate being bothered when it comes, like, you know. So I feel like Coda is an extension of Davey. I feel like it's almost undeniable. Like this was his outlet. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that he had the balls to kind of put something like this out. Especially when it did come out, when there weren't any games like it. Like, when was the last time you played a game like this?
Yeah, seriously.
Never have.
Greg and I were talking about this off air, actually. Like, I can't think of... I know a few games that have come close to what it wanted to be, but it just fell flat. One of them was called, and it was called What Never Was. I told Greg about it earlier, like that it was like an hour-long game. No, I checked my thing. I had to finish in like 17 minutes. It tries so hard to be something it isn't, and just doesn't. Like the beginner's guide has zero expectations on itself. It has a plan. It has a mood. It's literally just sit and press W.
Yeah, it simplifies perfectly what it wants to be, which is just like conversation that makes you think that you have like opportunity to change the course of actions, which you don't. It's very much like you have very much planned expectation, plus like you can move, which makes you feel like you're in control, but you really don't. It's very much a set path that you have to go down, and that is such a powerful tool to set in motion for such a simple premise, which is just like, you know, experience this thing, you go down this path, you have this thing. You can pick three options, but they all mean the same, really. And it's fascinating to watch people react to that because it's very much clear that it only can have one result in this game, at least.
In fact, one might say the only thing that makes it a game is the only game part of it, the one puzzle that keeps repeating. I'm talking about the doors. You know, and like it's such a simple thing. Like
I would argue that has the least effect because you know they clearly call to it, and the fact that you can't change anything about it, you're like, okay, I got it. Did anyone have a problem with that puzzle? Like off right at the bat? Did anyone have trouble? Because I think the first time I solved it was a little awkward, but I was like, okay, I got it.
Yeah. But being on the source engine, you'd know that this could be like kind of fucky. So in my head, when I was first solving it, I thought this is not what the dev thought I was going to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it just worked. And you hear the voice line, and I was like, oh, self-aware as fuck. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing. I found the game charming as hell. Really, really beautiful. Like,
it's very charming.
Yeah.
The fact that you go to a level where there's like these giant columns of where you're supposed to go, and they're filled with like these all infinite knowledge, and you can choose to go, because it's a game, you can walk towards the empty space in between these giant columns, and the game immediately recognizes that you're going to this empty space and be like, hey, by the way, there's nothing there. I'm glad that you're looking, but there's nothing there. Don't worry about it.
But see, for someone who's averse in coding, like Steve, like he'd know how easy it is to make that happen, right? Because with my limited knowledge, I know that you just put like a waypoint there. Like if someone comes into that area, like it triggers this, whatever.
I mean, it's you know, it's definitely like more time consuming than it initially would seem, which is why like sort of some of the things in the game I was like, you know, okay, well, this was definitely made with some kind of intent.
Exactly.
So there's definitely a lot of intent behind all the aspects of it, or like, you know, changing the physics. And I'm like, you know, looking at some of the stuff, like even the first level, like the CS:GO level, I'm like, you know, someone who had just picked up Source would not be able to do this in like a few months. Like you talk about the games you spent 7 months on, and those were not as complex as the first one.
This is why I argue the game is not a game itself. It's really an experience.
Yeah.
In a different medium, because people like think game like they immediately put it into a certain box, whereas experience is like a different medium where you can thoroughly explore it and evolve as an art form. And people just do not put the same in the same box. But this game does a unique thing where it does both, because you can go into it and you completely do it at your own pace, because it bases off of your movement and on your what you see. Which is so unique, which I love.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's like I definitely liked the game. I understood the message it was trying to sort of convey, but it didn't like floor me, I guess. Maybe I felt like I was too familiar with like the message it was trying to convey, or like it didn't quite like make me think that hard about it.
I think it was a delivery of that message that was
potentially.
Definitely depends. That's why I want to know Nick's perspective, because like I remember when I first played this game and I played it, and the guy starts getting annoyed that he showed other people his perspective. Like, man, isn't that the point of showing people your art, your games? So it really depends on how you perceive games, as you want them to show people or you don't. We got Nick. Give me something.
Well, I don't know really how to start.
Start from the beginning. Sort of how you felt at the first level, and if you're what parts of the game maybe stuck out in any ways at all, and then like what you didn't like about it, or if like something sounded annoying to you, or I don't know what you feeling.
Steve just gave Nick a beginner's guide to the beginner's guide.
Yes, exactly.
I didn't really feel uncomfortable the whole game, in a sense. I didn't feel that drive to want to just keep going and going and going either. It was one of those empty feelings. Like, I think when I approached the game, I screwed myself over by putting an expectation to it. Trying to compare it against other games like Doki Doki, of just how much that kind of just blew my mind, that there is something out in this world like that. Simple as it is. And I did relate in a lot of stuff, and towards the end, it almost feels like the character is more relatable than in the beginning, in its own sense, but I don't know.
Did it feel like you were playing an unfinished game?
Not really, because in the end, I felt like the goal was to get the message and to make it bring awareness to it and whatnot. And then I feel like after you shut down the game, it's not the fact that you just stop playing it or whatever. It just kind of it makes you think a little bit outside of the game. Kind of just sit there.
Interestingly enough, Coda got you.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Because that's essentially what all his games were. They were never meant to have a purpose. They're never meant to evoke anything. It's just the order in which that Davey had put them in. Because he wanted to find emotion. He wanted to find a meaning. He wanted to find a reason. But no, Coda just wanted to make these things.
Yeah, and I felt like, in a weird way, Coda made these games as a distraction for himself, for whatever reason it may be in his life and whatnot. And I get that. I can... it's relatable because I can get that sometimes you just want to have your space. You want to do your thing. You kind of just want to let the world do its own thing, but you want to be on two different islands type of thing. And I think that's what was going on, and he just got to the point where he was so annoyed with it that he just had to, step in and go, this isn't healthy for me.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore.
And I feel like that's basically a representation of Davey himself, with people hounding him on Twitter and everything like that about Stanley Parable 2 and all this stuff, and he just wants to be left alone. He put out a great game, like, let him breathe,
Great interpretation. Great interpretation of art itself, because it makes you like realize how it can be as fragile as like, I saw this thing and the guy was as he was, and I experienced it. It was great, but it can be as dicey as it was. Like, oh, he was involved in other games, and he's has all the weird kind of controversy. But at the same time, I had this experience, so it really does a great job of managing both worlds, which is great.
And I think the whole idea that's expressed here about people trying to find meaning in something, I think that could also relate back to, like you're saying, people trying to find meaning in like the Stanley Parable or like games that Davey had written previously, and this is kind of his way of saying like, hey, these games can also just be this. Like there doesn't have to be a deeper meaning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
same
great.
Same thing with like life in general.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have just because you do something doesn't mean you have to be rewarded. Why can't you just do it for the experience or to enjoy just that one time?
So rare. Which is annoying.
Yeah.
It's art form has been around for so long, but you only get these like artistic games once in a lifetime, which is a shame because it's a medium that deserves far more based on the sheer volume it can, entangle.
Yeah.
With the amount of possibilities that this game can completely take on, and it only encompasses like a small amount, which is a shame. So I think it's such a medium that can take on far more.
And it's interesting about like this game, like because people do, and I was gonna say, yeah, it's great that people are thinking outside the box, but thinking outside the box would give you, in our past, when it comes to indie games specifically, have given you stuff like Unpainted Swan. Remember that game where it's just a white like space and you have a paint gun and you like kind of navigate by shooting paint and stuff just to get depth perception and stuff? That's cool. That's a cool mechanic, sure, but it doesn't like evoke anything in me and stuff. You talk about games like Edith Finch and stuff, which is a walking simulator, and it's just it's hard.
It's a lot of variables.
It's not as Now, actually, I'm gonna draw a parallel.
Go for it.
Y'all may not like it.
I'm already hating it.
I liken games like this, like The Beginner's Guide, to games like Death Stranding. Where you have this eclectic developer.
Worst of the Stranding games.
We have this eclectic developer who has a message in mind that he's not going to let anybody else fuck with.
Puts his name in the credits.
Yeah. And when you play the game, it's not what you think it's going to be. Because it is another walking simulator. It's a delivery simulator. It's Amazon Prime delivery simulator.
It's a Strand game. It's not for everyone.
No.
That's why I think games are so unique, because movies are very straightforward. It's like you watch them, you experience them as a person from the third person because you're watching them. There's only so much you can do, but a game you interact with. You're interacting from either a first person or a third person or a second person perspective, which changes so many things. That's why games are so more interesting as a medium.
So I want to counterpoint what the Dayaan said about this being a walking simulator, because I actually think it's almost the opposite. I think it's a doing nothing simulator, because I think I
fully agree.
Yeah, because I think the whole idea of the game, and maybe there's sort of this idea that it's trying to reject, where like people are constantly looking for the next objective, or what is the completionist? How do I finish the game? Or how do I, I'm gonna go read all the chat bubbles because that's the thing to do at this level. He's like, oh yeah, you can do the maze if you want, but like that's not the point. The point isn't to complete the maze. The point isn't to complete the level or go to the lamppost that's not supposed to be there. And that it actually like draws a very sharp parallel to something in Stanley Parable, because I remember there was an ending in Stanley Parable where all you had to do was nothing. You just stood there and did absolutely nothing.
There's
and you got
one where you don't open the game for a certain amount of years.
Yeah,
that's another achievement you can get.
Yeah, so I've never tried this before, but I'd be very curious if there's a part of the beginner's guide where if you literally just decided you didn't want to progress, if something would happen.
I honestly think so. And you know what? I saw an example of it while playing Far Cry 5 that Steve recommended, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So, in the beginning of Far Cry 5 when you're going to go arrest Joseph.
Arrest.
And when when they tell him like cuff this son of a bitch, if you just wait there and do nothing, literally do nothing, just wait there, let the dialogue go, let the repeated dialogue go, just wait there, the sheriff will immediately be like, all right, let's get out of here, and they'll walk out and the credits will spawn.
Yeah.
That's the third ending apparently.
So great.
Like I love that shit. I love when games like do that.
Yeah. They give you that third option that they don't ever talk about. It's like you have this option A and this option B, but then well, I can also do this thing.
Yeah, I can also do nothing.
It's like an imitation of life. Life does not have a simulation of 1 ending, 2 ending, 3 endings, 4 endings, 4 endings, 5 endings.
Do you believe in fate and destiny, or don't you? You know?
Right.
I think I think there were sort of two illustrations going on when he talked about the Source engine, especially with the whole idea. He really kind of harped on the idea of boxy interiors and like Source engine does boxes really well.
Yeah.
And I think that was on the surface, I believe that was meant to illustrate a cage. Like, you know, you're walled in on all sides. And on the other hand, I think that was also meant to illustrate the idea of a linear path.
Yeah.
Where you're supposed to move forward constantly or backwards. Forward or backwards. But then they don't ever mention the third option, which is don't go anywhere, just stand still. Like, you know, I'd be very curious about what would happen there. Or even remember the level where you had to move, if you did nothing you would die, or the one that was like close your eyes.
Oh yeah.
Where you fly into the door. What would happen if you just let it run on that level for hours?
You would die.
And hours.
You would die. Like the door
over and over.
Over and over for hours and hours and hours.
Oh.
It would never stop.
Oh, I ain't gonna do that.
I know, but that's the idea.
It would be mildly interesting to kind of see if that yields any different results. I'll give you that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't believe that we've completed the beginner's guide. I don't want to believe it. I believe that we could run through it again.
Like 80% or so.
Yeah, I feel like the difference between you guys who didn't really get much from the game is that like, Greg and I actually played it twice. I played it recently again as well, and like I found a lot more that I missed out the first time I did. And this is after again same time frame, 2 years apart. I played it again, and now I will continue playing it 2 years after. I couldn't shut up about this game after I first played it. I bought it for a friend, and she just she was in tears. I guess because she was in a hard spot at the time as well. Like it really related to her, you know. And I was in not the best spot in my life when I first played it too. And like I fully just dove in. Like it's such an important game for me. Like it just speaks to me on many levels. And even as its own entity, like I said before, it's the most charming piece of software I've installed on my computer.
Which is pretty fascinating because I think I'm probably on the opposite end because like you can go from it like the point of you don't give a shit to the point of it matters completely.
Yeah.
Whereas what Kyler was like you go in all in or nothing at all, and the game has to make you have to make a decision. You have to pick one. So you either go all in or you don't go in at all. That's kind of where I was. Whereas you all in or nothing at all, and so the game desperately pulls you into one of these objectives.
Yeah,
you have to commit to it.
Dayaan, question for you. So back to the question you asked previously about who's Coda. So who is Coda to you, and what is the engine?
What is the engine they used?
Yeah, no. What is the engine they reference in the game?
At the end.
Oh, the engine. I felt like the engine was pretty much Coda.
The engine was Coda. Okay.
Yeah, because you have this horde of people waiting outside, which was like pretty obvious. Like that's the horde. That's Twitter. That's all the people messaging him and stuff. And this engine just wants to be turned off for a little while to kind of rest. Doesn't want the attention and stuff. And like you're badgering this poor individual to kind of like, no, I want more. I want more.
Interrogate the engine.
Exactly. Like I'm not a dancing monkey, like I'm a human. That we forget that like this guy's human at the end of the day. We think of a celebrity and we think, oh, that's all they do. Their lives are probably cushy. Not true. Like they probably have shit of their own and stuff at a different scale. Yeah. Like so, Coda for me on the surface is Davey. I think Coda is all of us at some point in our lives. Like we've all been through something like that, and if we haven't, we will. We definitely will. So that's how I feel about that. I'm gonna wrap this up, and I'm gonna ask you guys, unless you have anyone has anything else to say.
No, I'm good.
I have one final question then. Do you think this game / piece of art has merit? Start with you.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Steve?
I think it's so eye-opening. When I first
Yeah,
played the
I think
game,
it has merit. Yeah.
it definitely opened a perspective in my brain that wasn't even
Mm-hmm.
not even close to comprehending.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember I played this game and I first thought like, oh my god, like Gears of War, Halo, like there was so many games I was comparing it to where it did not fully like
Yeah.
delve into the deeper meaning of like what are the people thinking, what was experience like. Like there was so many different meanings that I never understood
Mm-hmm.
that it addressed, which was fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe that it tackled such things that were so distant in my
It was
mind.
very bold. Very
I'm
bold.
glad it did it. Thank God, because it was so distant from my mind.
Yeah.
I'm glad it did.
I feel like even asking the question if it has merit as a game specifically is immaterial.
Yeah.
It's just the delivery, the vehicle that it was put on to deliver a message, which I'm fully with you on that. How about you, Steve?
Yes, I think it does have merit. Yeah, I mean, even though I don't say I don't hold it at the very top in terms of like life-changing games for me. I totally understand like why a game like that has merit, and I do still like the game and think it's worth playing, for sure.
Do you feel like games should be as daring?
Yes, I do. I mean, I think I'd say the reason why the game didn't really strike a chord for me is not that like it's weird. It's like saying it's like I felt like I've played the game like 4 or 5 times before I actually played it. That was kind of the feeling I got. I was like, okay, well, I'm pretty familiar with that. So I think those games are definitely worth making.
All right. If you were,
absolutely.
If you were lead director, and anyone else can also pitch in if they want to. If you were lead director of Beginner's Guide 2, what would you do differently?
I would explore different emotions. I would have maybe not focused on this one particular individual, or maybe this individual would have gone through different cycles in their life. I think they could have expanded. They really limited themselves on the time frame of saying, this was a guy who made these games over the course of 3 years, and this was the one emotion that he was experiencing, and all of these games that you're going to see represent this type of thing. I think they could have done, if they were to show something like that, or what if this word? I think they could have gone to more different extremes with what they were trying to illustrate.
I agree. I think I was going to be more satirical. It would have been more goofy.
I think that would
like
make
Fortnite levels of like, oh, there's one fucking thing, and then you really revolve around that one thing.
Okay. I mean,
it felt kind of watered down.
Okay. I feel like he did that. I mean, we've seen the Stanley Parable. We know he's capable of doing that, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like it would have made it less believable that this is a real person, which is what the game was trying to posit. Like, Coda was real and stuff. So, like, adding stuff like that may have kind of shot himself in the foot. But I would have liked to maybe have seen. But we know there's never going to be a Beginner's Tale 2 because, like, like, Coda, when he makes his games, it's done. He moves on to the next project.
Yeah.
Which, there's a lot. There's so much in the unmapped universe of Davy's mind, I'll put it that way, that would prohibit there being ever the Beginner's Tale 2. I feel like that would be selling out. To kind of redo the same thing when we already know the secret, just like there's never going to be another Doki Doki. Like,
no, there's other ideas to explore. I think
it would have to be
the
a different
goal
setting completely.
Yeah, or someone else would do it. I mean, that's the idea, right? Is the idea is out there, someone else can take it and run with it.
Yeah, it's not like an art style like. Yeah, if you have like one person does like pointillism, I say pointillism specifically because there's an example of pointillism in the game with the giant picture with dots. Like someone else could do like use the same style and stuff, but this is an idea, a very specific idea, and like you can't just replicate it without losing the feeling of like newness and like catching you off guard. You watch a horror movie, for example, you know the music that comes. You won't be able to recall it right now, but you know the mood and the music that comes before a jump scare. Like, it's there. It's a template, It's hard to template a game like this. You just constantly have to be innovative, which I also say is why we haven't seen many games like this to begin with. I love that the Beginner's Guide exists. I love that games like Doki Doki exist. And honestly, I love that Death Stranding exists because Hideo Kojima did it at a AAA level. and just said fuck you, and like just put out this is what I wanted to make, and I respect him for that. We could probably
style.
talk. Yeah, it's a different style. It's a different.
Not
thing.
great.
But like the idea of doing something that bold is not dissimilar to the beginner's guide, I feel. But that's just me. Anyway. Nick, did you not get anything? Like nothing. Like I want to know what your thought process midway through the game. I want to know when it was like, all right, I have to complete this game for the podcast.
It's okay if you don't.
Also, I'll say this: it's okay to not like the game. It's
I
fine.
want to say it was like fairly early on.
Okay.
I think like the 3rd level. I don't remember what I was doing.
What was the 3rd level? I forget. It started with the dust level. We had the
Dust level, space
Then it
level,
went to the space one, and then it went to.
Can't hear you, Greg.
sewer.
Oh, still can't hear you. Can you hear Greg?
No.
Okay, following
Oh,
with
There we go.
the geometric shapes, I think it was.
Oh, it was one of the. Okay, yeah.
Oh, when you were falling down or
Yeah.
stepping down as he was.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, about right in there. But then it like my mind started kind of making a turn towards what you guys are leaning towards, getting the meaning out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right about where you had to do the chores and everything like that. Where you were actually doing something, but then he says this could have just kept going on and on, but for namesake I continued it or whatever.
Yeah.
Open the door, whatever. I don't know. I don't know really how to take this game. I get more of an experience having a deep conversation with just friends about stuff like this than I do trying to experience it one-on-one.
That's art,
In a
baby.
Yeah,
It's art.
That is art.
It's art.
It made you confused, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Like, yeah.
This is why I think it's the beginner guide to like art, the
Yes.
game form.
Yeah,
So the whole full title should be.
Because I want to say that having gone through art school and stuff, I'm not getting anything what I'm doing, and like kind of missing the picture. I kind of realized I'm chasing it too hard, like,
Yeah.
and it was the wrong medium for me. When I started playing games a lot, which was like obviously a long time, but like thinking about this stuff while playing games, like, it just opened to me. And like Greg said, like I get art now.
But I think one of the ideas the game is trying to sort of throw forward is really it's not really meant to be understood. It's meant to be experienced. So, and I think that's the same with a lot of art, where it's like you don't really need to understand the art. You don't have to really understand what the artist was thinking. You can interpret it in your own way,
Right.
but really it's the experience that comes out of it. And whether you get a lot out of that experience or whether you're just like, okay, whatever, it's dots on the wall, it looks great,
It's fine.
sure.
It's fine. The one thing I
Yeah,
hated
yeah.
about art school is that you were forced. If you like, our professor would show us a piece of art, and just ask us a simple question: do you like it? And if you said no, you had to explain in detail why. So I've applied that to everything in my life, and stuff like coupled with if you've got nothing good to say, don't say it, But I was put in a very weird position where I had to actually tell them, like, and then I was just like lost for words. Like I just kind of recall it. I was just like, I just don't like it, And that kind of taught me that it's okay to not like things,
Right.
and B, if I don't like it, it doesn't mean it's objectively bad. Like I learned a lot from that shit. And the beginner's guide is like, and I love that we had 3 different reactions to this. Like I love that we had variety.
You know it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like it got so weird for me because I knew I wanted to do it for the podcast, but I also wanted to get that experience of something out of this. And I knew with you 3 big brains that you guys were going to be like so far in depth and everything like that. And I felt so bad coming out of it because it's like, I don't know what I got out of it. I have no idea what the point of any of this was. I felt like I did something wrong. Something was off. I just felt bad, but
No.
that's exactly what he was
I think that's exactly what you got out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly. And that's substance. Like I was saying earlier, If you don't get something, it's fine. You just take it face value and like speak towards it, right? There's no.
And honestly, we could all just be like bullshitting out our asses, and that might be the actual intention, is to not get anything out of it.
Honestly, that is art.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it! I wanted to wrap up, and Greg just fucking left.
Let's just wrap up.
No. We can't wrap up like Greg.
Oh, okay. Wait. Did you solve the invisible maze at the end?
I didn't.
In a tower.
No, I had. This was me, like 3 foot tall, my hand up in there, and Davey holding my hand through the entire game. I didn't do anything I wasn't supposed to. I challenged in the beginning, but once I knew that I wasn't gonna get anything extra out of it, I just let the game take me.
You didn't like spend 10 minutes trying to climb the stairs going like half a mile an hour?
I thought about it, honestly. I thought about
started
what if
too,
I
but then it's like,
what if I get a W macro, install it, and just like go make a sandwich or something?
So
and see what happens.
that's like what I want to think about is like, what happens if you play the game as Coda intended?
Being Davey Reedon, I feel like that you might get something.
Yeah,
Well,
because it's like,
feel like you get something.
but then it's like, okay, well, am I supposed to never progress past the cleaning level? Because that was never supposed to end. Or the tower puzzle, like the door's not supposed to open, so do I just sit there and wait? Or, you know, it's those core moments in the game where it's like, you're almost picking sides.
Yeah. Whether you
where
want
it's
to be
like,
immersed or...
Exactly. It's like, and it's really interesting because he's like, you know, this is what he intended. Like, you know, because at the very beginning, he's like, these levels were so interesting. I want to show you like his work and how fascinating it is.
Yeah.
But then like very, very quickly throughout every level, he was like, okay, well, there's this one thing that's like stupid. So here's my modification to it to make it playable. So it's like, you know, this is a great idea, but, you know, I fixed it so it works now.
I feel like I may be the only one who actually appreciate the scape or the skybox and stuff. Or, like, yeah, I know source engine's easy to do, but just like the use of it, like these levels are actually huge. They're massive. Like,
or like when he takes down the walls in that room and you see nothing but staircases everywhere.
Even the stage where you're running away in like
the hallway felt like it was never gonna end.
Yeah. And I love that. I knew that it was meant to make you feel uncomfortable, that I had like a certain unease. I loved it.
Did you guys...
Go ahead.
Last question, sorry. When you guys were descending down the polygons, did you guys just jump off into the darkness and land on the floor?
No, I took every single step down.
Okay.
I did. That was towards the beginning, so I definitely did.
I jumped off, yeah.
I definitely tried to do what all of us would have done, is try to break the game at that point. Like, but no, we were outsmarted, man. This guy knows like fuckers like us, so he knows about the Goon Squad.
Absolutely.
After that point, it's completely walled off. So one time.
You're in a box. That's the game. It's the skybox.
I mean, yeah, you're always in a box, which is another great example of feeling trapped into this world, no matter how seemingly infinite the space could be.
We're in our own prison.
I think we've spoken a lot about this game. Like I had a great experience. I feel like this was a lovely podcast, a lovely time. We're gonna stop right here, and that was a shit way of like ending. No, all right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you've come this far, you may have noticed that speaking of art,
wait, there can't be an ending to this podcast. Like there was no ending to the game. We just have to cut it right here.
I should have.
Hold on.
I should have, but there's one thing. No, stop, Nick. I know. I'm gonna get to it. Stop. Speaking towards art, we've seen Steve put up a piece of art behind him. Was it? I don't know if it's in the episode or not. It depends on where I cut it. But I feel like the moment Steve said that this game is not art, that thing fell off the wall, dude.
I just saw it.
I noticed it a long time ago. I was like waiting to bring it up.
Yo, this is my art. Okay? Guys give me shit about my bland ass walls. This is my art.
Your walls are giving shit back, dude. They're like, no.
Here, I'll bring the art forward. It's my art.
And Steve actually painted this. It's beautiful.
Yes, I had wine when I was painting. It was fantastic. It was one of those wine and paint bars.
Damn! Look at you being all leaving your house kind of
fun.
people.
Leaving my house.
This
not
is before
nowadays.
COVID. This is before COVID. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. If you do want to play the game, it's on Steam. It's called The Beginner's Guide. If you played Stanley Parable before, this should definitely be part of your library too. You may have a different experience than the four of us did. I really hope you did. And I'd love to hear it in the comments. You can also get us at Twitter at official. Actually, before we go with that, where can we find you, Greg?
DesperadoGPJ at steam.com. On
Steve?
Steam!
Steve?
Blackened X27 on Twitch or Blackened on Steam.
Nick? Let's rattle it off, man. We got to get this good this time. Let's do it.
LeetDemon on Twitch and at Nicholas_Delk on Twitter. LeetDemon on Steam.
Golf clap for you, sir.
I've been working on it.
All right. You can find me on Twitter at @IamDayaan. You can also find me on Twitch, Bella_Swift. And you can also find this beautiful podcast. Well, you probably already know. Right down there, Twitter, @officialGNSD. Tweet us, hate us, love us, maybe? We'll love you anyway. Tell us what you thought about The Beginner's Guide if you played it. If you got any other weird endings or different voice lines, because I feel like all of us, apart from Steve, played it pretty much vanilla. We just wanted to like race towards it. But yeah, do talk to us. We're really lonely. And stay safe. Wear a mask. Always wear a mask. Fuck cops. Love you guys. Mwah.
Hang your paintings upside down with masking tape.
Do
See
that,
you guys.
All right.